Well, good morning, everybody. It is not quite 5:30 in the morning on Friday, and I have got 333 miles to go, according to Waze, to get to the Pickers Pavilion in Lindale, Texas, to go to the East Texas Fiber Festival. Right now it says I'll arrive at 10:15, which is an hour and 45 minutes early, but that gives me time to stop for gas and stop to get a bite to eat if I decide I want to eat before I get there, although I've packed lunch stuff and drinks and snacks and all that because I'm cheap and I like to travel cheaply because then there's more money for good stuff at the festival. Anyway, I am wearing my Farm Girl overalls, which you probably can't tell, and my Helen Stewart Impressionist shawl. I haven't put on a lick of makeup yet. I thought maybe I could do that before I got there. And I've got all my goodies packed, my stuff for my 2 classes that I'm taking, and some surprises, or some treats, not some surprises, but some treats for some friends I'm going to see there. So y'all come on with me, and we're headed to the East Texas Fiber Festival at the Pickers Pavilion in Lindale, Texas. This is Johanna from Potion Yarns, and I follow her on YouTube, so I'm going to ask her some questions. So I know that you are a hair colorist, and that's kind of your specialty, right?
Yes.
And so I was really interested in that because I used to always keep my hair colored, and then I stripped all the color out, which is not easy to do.
Yes.
So what got you interested in dyeing yarn?
Well, I have been knitting for a lot of years as well, and a few years ago my husband wanted me to make him something, and he had specifically asked for the colors in a painting I had done. And I started looking for yarn, and after 4 or 5 months of searching the internet everywhere, I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for. And I told him I didn't think I could do it, so he said, well, can't you just paint yarn like you paint hair? Because I know if someone asked you for this on hair, you'd be able to do it. And I was like, that's ridiculous. It's not the same thing at all. And then I got to thinking, and I was like, well, why can't I? I'm smart, I'm talented, I can figure this out. So I started researching it and bought some stuff, started playing around, and just fell in love with the process, how fun it was. And then I was like, I could do this and make my own yarn to knit with, and then I wouldn't have to buy as much yarn. So that's kind of how it started, but within a couple of weeks, it quickly grew into, I'm never going to knit all of this, so I need to start selling it.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there.
Yeah. Well, I really like your podcast because being an educator, I like the fact that you try to educate people about, I just watched the ones about bleeding, the yarn bleeding and all that, and it was really neat how you went into all that. So is that kind of one of the things that you enjoy doing, is educating your clients about how to learn about what's going on with their yarn?
Definitely. I didn't really intend for it to start that way when I started the podcast, but it very quickly grew into that. And I do think that I enjoy the education part of it, because once you know, knowledge is power, and once you know more, you are able to do so much more. And my slogan with my business is create your own magic. And in order to create your own magic, you have to know what you're doing, and the more you know, the more magical things you can make.
The more you know.
I really try to help educate people so that they can get the most enjoyment out of my yarns.
Wonderful.
And I find that works works with my hair clients too. The more I educate people about their hair and how to take care of it and what goes into crazy color, the more likely they are to enjoy it, get the most out of it, get their money's worth.
Right, because you do a lot of really kind of, not avant-garde's not the right thing, but really bright colors.
Yeah, vivid colors, rainbows, funky stuff.
And that stuff's hard to maintain, so you got to know what to do.
You have to be very educated to do it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I was looking at what you're knitting on here. Oh, that's your brioche.
This is the Coffee at the Grand Stole by Leslie Robinson.
Okay, cool.
I love it. It's so beautiful.
On your podcast. So wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
My aunt is a genius. So, I don't know about that, but I have fun playing with dye.
I'm going to see what you're working on.
Oh, sure.
I'm doing a little video for my podcast. So, hi. These are the ladies from Moon Tower Dyeworks, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're from Austin, Texas.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. What are you working on?
So I am working on a color work hat right now with some of my aunt's yarn in the colorway Somebody Touched My Spaghetti from the little meme. So I have my little skulls going here.
Cool.
I'm hoping to have it done by tomorrow.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm a slow knitter, so.
I'm super slow, but color work for me oddly goes fast.
Cool. Well, I did my first color work hat the other day. So I'm doing a little vlog here, so get a little video of all y'all's pretty stuff.
Thank you for the
This is Anna from Moon Tower Dyeworks, and they're from Austin, Texas. Yes!
Hello.
And they are going to be providing the yarn for the class that I'm taking tomorrow. So, Anna, would you like to tell us a little bit about how you got started dyeing yarn?
I'd love to. It started out with a passion for knitting and crochet, all things needlework, really. And from there, I fell in love with Savvy Skeins, which is a dyer that's also here, right down at the end. And that was one of my first purchases of indie dyed yarn. And I was amazed at the speckles and the colors. And I was inspired to, it was selfish. I wanted to dye something that no one else would ever have.
Yeah.
It would be mine.
Yeah.
So that was my first motivation. And I loved it so much that I didn't stop. I kept dyeing. I don't know if I should look.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
You're perfect.
So I kept dyeing and kept expanding colors, trying new things, and realized that sometimes the things that I didn't like, other people did like.
Right.
And that's how I got to here.
Cool.
So
Cool. And you got beautiful colors.
Thank you so much.
I love how bright they are. I love bright colors.
I've tried to do the soft washes of color, like the very elegant, gentle colors. I'm bad at it. I love brights.
Yeah, me too. My mom was a bright color person too, so I love your base names too. They're all about moon things, which makes me very happy.
I'm glad you like it. Well, I'm so happy because I've never met an astrophysicist before, so here we are. We're both happy.
Yeah. So, I appreciate you answering some questions. Thank you.
Happy
Anna.
to.
Okay, we're here at Leon Alexander Yarns with Logan and Jose. My main reason I came down here was to take your class and to look at your pretty stuff. Even though we see it in Conway in a couple of weeks, I decided to come here. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started dyeing and what your inspiration is for color?
So I was kind of started from like an art.
Over this way where you're not in the shadow.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. From an art background, and so painting and mixing colors is like naturally a good introduction to dyeing yarn as far as color theory, and that's something that we're going to be talking about today in our class. So we're going to go over color theory, and then we're going to actually be able to interact with different colors of yarn. So I've got minis and. It's going to be like a really fun time to just like play with color and combine things to see what looks great.
And kind of in different ways and kind of get people outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, and so for this show too, we also did a fiber bar, just something new for us, and it's really exciting. Really have fallen in love with spinning and fiber.
Cool.
So we've got Angelina, Firestar, and our luxury blends too down there. We've got our BSL and Yak and Silk.
I'm not there yet, but I know a lot of people do enjoy skiing. I don't know about that. So you guys are located in Oklahoma City, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you do travel to Arkansas fairly frequently.
Yeah.
So the Twisted Pearl.
We travel to Arkansas and kind of travel all over.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm excited about your class. So.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. Okay, thanks. Good morning from day 2 of the East Texas Fiber Festival. It is about 8:15 a.m., 8:20 a.m. I got over here a little bit early because I wanted to do some Pokemon Go and do some geocaching before the festival opened. I have a class at 10 o'clock and then I'm meeting Agatha for my virtual knit night group. She's driving over from Shreveport. We're going to meet up after my class and then I'm going to head on back home. So it is here in the Pickers Pavilion and it's been a good festival. There's been quite a few vendors. It's pretty cold. The building is pretty cold and the lighting isn't so hot, and I wish that there was a place for people to sit and socialize. There's really nothing like that in there, but all in all I think the classes have been really cool that they've offered and everyone's been very, very friendly. So I enjoyed the color theory class yesterday with Logan, and today I have a crochet and cables class, so I'm looking forward to that. Hey, I just got done with my class with Quaylin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Quaylin, and he taught me how to do, we won't look at this too close because I'm still learning, but he has a beautiful scarf on that's an example of what we were trying to learn.
We are teaching the Celtic crochet cables.
Cool.
And this is the Dust and Ashes cable scarf that I have on today. But
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So how did you get started with crochet?
I went to a thrift store and just picked out a crochet hook and some yarn and got started. It was my freshman year of high school and I didn't have really anyone to hang around with. I just moved. So crochet was my friend.
Okay. Okay. So you've been designing for how long now?
For a little over a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were telling me who all you designed for and some of the things you've done.
Yep, I do a lot of indie yarn designs with indie dyers, and then I also work with Red Heart, Crochet Magazine, Crochet World Magazine, and a lot of teaching too at Stitches and East Texas Fiber Festival.
Yeah. And you got the teacher Lefty today,
yes.
So that was a little different. Okay, so what is I was going to ask. So you said crochet was your friend. So do you find crochet is a good thing for like when you're stressed or sad?
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's good therapy.
Every single time that I'm stressed in my life, I'll pull out my crochet. It just calms me down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what would you like to do moving forward in your career? What is your ultimate goal as a designer?
Definitely some books. I got one in the works right now, the sketches and stuff. Definitely crochet cable books because I love the cables. A lot more teaching, maybe some TV work. I don't know,
Cool.
like making it or something.
That'd be awesome.
But definitely a lot of teaching, a lot of design.
So where are you going to be teaching next? What's the next event?
The next event will be, the big one is the Dallas Fort Worth Fiber Festival. I'm teaching a class on crochet cables and crochet cable design, which is also for knitting cable design, and that one's in April.
Yay! And I'm already thrown in with the guys from Leon Alexander Yarns.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to stay
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your patience.
Of course, no, I had a great time. Love it.
Thanks a lot. There you go. You can't go wrong with them mixed together. Carol from Chicken Coop Dyeworks. Tell us a little bit about your booth here and then how you got into dyeing yarn.
Okay. My booth, I want to give everyone kind of a whimsical, urban, farm garden experience.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of think.
Yay, farm.
Yeah, us farm girls have to stick together.
That's right.
So, all of my yarn is built on being as organic as possible.
Okay.
There are no GMOs.
Okay.
I have a lot of fingering. I have my chicken feed, which is my basic sock yarn.
Mm-hmm.
It's merino nylon blend 75-25.
Okay.
And then I have foghorn, which is a new line I'm coming out with. It is a 75-25 as well.
Uh-huh.
It just has a different feel, a different twist,
So
different
like foghorn, leghorn.
Yes.
There you go. That's
They
pretty.
have a feel. Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah. Then I also have another fingering, which is new. It is my feathers, and this is a merino silk blend.
Oh.
And
that's nice.
beautiful for shawls. Just
Okay.
beautiful for shawls. In fact, I'm using it on this kit over here.
Okay.
This is Laura Beasley's pattern. It's called Bert Gets the Worm.
Okay.
And it comes with a hank of my feathers yarn, a project bat by So Secret. Isn't that cute? And of course the shawl pattern. It's on Ravelry and downloadable.
Cool.
And over here my DKs, my 100% merino, which is my basic DK, is hen, and then I have some MCN and a few other nice surprises.
Cool.
Some paw work.
Yeah.
I'm going into a lot of different sheep blends.
Yeah, I like
So,
that. And I like that it's all, I like the names, a lot of them are farm inspired.
Yes,
that
yes,
makes me
absolutely,
happy.
absolutely. Like I said, us farm girls have to stick together.
Yes. So is
Yes.
the kit a show only thing, or are you
It
going to
is
have those available on your shop?
It is being put. Its first appearance is here at the show. I will have it available.
Okay, and then you have a website and an Etsy shop?
I do. I'm moving away from Etsy, however.
I know a lot of people are
Yeah,
starting to.
I'm moving away from Etsy. It's going to be on my website, which is www.coopdye.com.
There you go.
And you can also pull me up at chickencoopdyeworks.com.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I
Thank
love your
you.
stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, y'all. So I thought that I would spend just a few minutes to show you my acquisitions from East Texas Fiber Festival in a separate video, not part of my regular podcast. I'll attach them to the vlog that I'm going to put together. And I'm going to do these kind of in no particular order out of my Bayou bag here with the dogs on it. Willie's not excited to be shut out of the room, but he doesn't need to be in here for this part. I had a great time. I have never been to a fiber festival before, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I knew it was going to be, a smaller festival just because DFW is sort of the big one in Texas. But I was pleased with how it went. My only sadness was just there wasn't a lot of room for community, and we'll talk about that at the end. But I met some people that I really enjoyed getting to know, and I got to meet a friend from my virtual knit group, so that was fun too. So so what I'm going to do is just kind of go through these in no particular order of things to show you what I got, and then at the end I'll do a few little final thoughts about things. So there's not really any rhyme or reason to the order. I am trying to group these by person that I got them from, just so they'll make a little bit more sense. And I realize now I've left something in yonder that I've got to go get, but I'll stop the video and go get that as when I get to that. So the first thing that I did was when I got there, I knew I took the Fat Squirrel Speaks advice, Amy Beth from the Fat Squirrel Speaks podcast. I took her advice about kind of go with a plan and how to use my photographs to organize what I was going to shop for, so I didn't come home with a lot of one skein wonders. I'm a fairly new, what I would call serious knitter, but I did want to go with some kind of a plan for what I was going to get. A knitter with a capital K, I guess is the word that Anna said. But I did have a plan on what I was looking for and what patterns I wanted to make and look for yarn for. And then I did buy a couple of one or two one skein wonders, but I do have a plan for them. So anyway, so let me do two things. I'm going to go get my other stuff that I left in the other room, and I'm going to let Willie in so he doesn't keep making noise, and then I will be right back. So hang on just a second. Okay, so I let Willie in, and I went and grabbed a couple of things that I had left in the other room and straightened my shawl. I am kind of in between feeding right now. I've done all the chores except for feed the cattle, so I've got the tractor on the charger right now, charging the battery again, and I'm waiting on that to charge up. So I thought I would quickly do this acquisition video. So I took 2 classes while I was there also, and I'll tell you a little bit about those as well. But so the first thing, as I had said, I went with a plan of what I was looking for. I had a group of pictures in an album. Of course, I knew I couldn't afford to buy yarn for every single thing that I wanted to get. And also, one of the groups that was supposed to be there had an accident, and they actually didn't get there until later on Saturday, and I was actually trying to leave so that I could get home before dark on Saturday. I'd gone down, I left early Friday morning and actually got there about an hour before the marketplace opened, and then I wanted to try to get home before dark, so I left about noon on Saturday to get back, because it was about a little over a 5-hour drive down there. So I wanted to get home as close to, not be on the road too much after dark, just because I wanted to kind of check on everybody and make sure that everybody was okay. I mean, I had friends checking on my animals, but I wanted to make sure that I like to make sure everybody's okay. Anyway, so the first thing that I went with a plan to purchase for was for the Midwinter Moon Mystery Knit Along that's getting ready to start in December by Larissa Brown. She is the one who did the Moon Phase Mystery Knit Along that I participated in back in the spring, and she's going to be doing a Mystery Knit Along again around the winter solstice. So I kind of had in mind the color scheme that I wanted, but I wasn't locked into it. I knew that I wanted it to be blues and kind of wintry colors. And I also knew that there were particular dyers that I wanted to buy from, and I had set my goals to buy from some particular dyers while I was there. So, Willie, you're going to have to get down, baby. You can't be up there, okay? So when I walked in, the first dyer that I saw was one of the ones that I wanted to purchase from, and that was Johanna from Potion Yarns, of the podcast, The Color Cauldron, with Potion Yarns, and I knew that I wanted to purchase from her. I had picked out a couple of things that I thought that I wanted, but again, I didn't have a plan for them. I just liked the yarn, so instead of getting some One Skein Wonders, I actually bought from her for the Midwinter Moon Mystery Knit Along, and I really enjoyed visiting with her. She has a podcast on YouTube, and it's very educational. You should check it out. She has a lot of really good discussion about how dye interacts with fiber. Of course, I had to buy one of her enamel pins. Okay, so I got that because you got to have a pin, right? But I purchased these yarns to do my Midwinter Moon Mystery Knit Along. This was the one I picked up first, and I was going to use that as sort of the central, more variegated feature, and then I wanted something lighter and something darker. And I thought at first I would do a blue, but then I found this really beautiful teal. And it caught my attention, and then so to play off of that, I picked up this lighter sort of sea green, turquoisey green color, and thought I would put those together. And after taking Logan's class about color theory, I think I made a really good choice of some kind of fade-ish idea. Although it wasn't intentional on my part, I just thought they looked well together. So this is on her Dryad sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And this is a color called Ancient Ritual. And I admit, I kind of got suckered in by the name too, I'm not going to lie. Then this is on her Foxy sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And it's got the turquoise in it there. You can see this is Dread Pirate Roberts, and who doesn't love a good Princess Bride reference. And then last but not least, this is her Fairy Wings fingering, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% silk. So I'm all over the place on my bases. I just went by colors, and this is called Magic Mermaid. So I think those will be really pretty together in that Midwinter Moon Mystery Knit Along. Those look very wintry to me without being just white and blue. So I'm excited to get started on that. Again, that's going to come out, I think, in December. So that was my first major purchase, where it was yarn for that Mystery Knit Along. I knew I wanted to get that. Then the next people I knew I was going to buy from were Logan and Jose from Leon Alexander Yarns. And of course I had to buy one of their new Lion glitter pens, because I have the gold one, but I had to have a pink one. And they were kind enough to donate 2 of their pens. And there won't be any more of the gold ones made. And then each one of these are limited edition. So they were kind enough to donate 2 pens for giveaway prizes. So I'll be looking out for those coming up. But I knew I wanted to do a fading point, but I don't know. I wanted something different than what a lot of people were doing, which was just the traditional sort of tonal gradients. And Logan had posted back when the pattern first came out some very colorful options for the fading point. And I messaged him, I said, that's what I want to do. That's something along those lines is what I want to do. And I had seen a beautiful sort of cobalty blue color that they had. Now the one that I saw was on DK, and it was much more tonal than this is, variegated and speckled. But I saw this and I went, that's the blue that I want to build off of. And this is from their From Paris with Love collection. And this is 85-15 superwash merino and nylon. And this is called City of Lights. Okay. I love this colorway. I mean, this is, probably one of my favorite colorways I've ever seen in any yarn. He dyes very beautiful, bright colors. So then I decided I was going to build off of that. And so the next thing that I picked up, again, I get suckered in by the names, was from their All Hallows Eve collection. And it's also 85-15. And it's a colorway called Salem. So that's kind of where I started building from, was from these 2. Okay. Now you may say that doesn't look like a fade much. Well, what I'm looking at is the blue. Okay. So the blue in here is kind of dark to a sort of a medium blue. And then this has got more of the turquoisey blue, but it also has some black and some dark purple. Then the next thing that I picked up to go, and Logan helped me with this a bunch, I'm not going to lie, was the color from the Hue Are You collection, which is also 85-15, and it is a colorway called Prom Queen. Okay, so that's going to be my next one. Now that's now I'm starting to I've gone down to the lighter blue, but I'm starting to bring in the green and the orange. So I decided to play off the green and the orange. Willie, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're a good boy. He found an empty Coke bottle in the trash and he decided to get it out. He likes to play with those. Anyway, so I decided to play off the green and the orange as the next step in my fade. So the next color we put with this is a color called Sunday Morning. And it's from a collection called Vacation. And it is also 85-15. So there's my orange. It's just getting wilder and wilder, isn't it? And then last but not least, to make the final step out of the lightest color in the fade for the orange and the green. And that orange is blowing out like nobody's business. That's a little bit better there, okay? The final step in the orange-green piece is a colorway from the Hue Are You collection also called Wildfire. And that's going to be the very lightest color. Let's see if I can hold all of those in my hand at one time. Probably not is going to be the answer to that. So that is going to be my fading point. Woo! You'll see me coming. I love it though. I think that's going to be fan-freaking-tastic. So, yeah. So Logan and Jose dye beautiful, beautiful yarn. And they are a big supporter of my podcast, and they are good friends. And they introduced me to some of their friends who I will show their yarn next, but I really, really enjoyed getting to visit with them. Logan taught the color theory class that I took and did a really good job getting us to kind of think outside the box on our selections of color. As you can see, did a really good job of trying to get us to think outside the box on our color selection. And they also had a fiber bar where if you see them at a show, you get to mix your own bat of fiber, and they've got this beautiful array of different fibers and sparklies and all this stuff that you can include in that. So if you ever are lucky enough to be at a show where they're at, you should check that out. Okay, so the people that they introduced me to were Anna and her niece, and Anna is, her niece is Whitney, and Anna is the dyer behind Moon Tower Dyeworks out of Austin, Texas. And I immediately hit it off with them. They were very sweet. I enjoyed getting to visit with them, and I look forward to visiting with them again soon. I think we're all going to try to meet up and stay together at Dallas Fort Worth Fiber Festival, which is coming up in April. So, Willie, he can't decide if he wants in my lap or if he wants to play with that bottle. But anyway, I had wanted to make the Bowie shawl, which is actually a sport weight shawl, but I'm going to fudge it and do it in fingering weight because I think as loose a knitter as I am, I think my gauge will be more like it is knit in sport weight. But it is a shawl that's a free pattern, and it has sort of the David Bowie lightning where there's a white section that's interspersed with triangles of very bright colors. So I saw this at the Moon Tower Dyeworks booth. Let me turn that the right way around. The Moon Tower Dyeworks booth. And I went, oh, because the idea is the colored section is sort of and the picture that's in the pattern, it's a rainbow. But I saw this and I thought, oh, that would be beautiful. And this is a one-of-a-kind colorway on her Europa sock base, which is 8515. I love her names because they're named after the moon, different moons in the solar system and different astronomy things. And so I hit it off with her immediately. But is that not gorgeous color? And then I said, okay, I want to intersperse that with something. And we looked and we looked and we looked. And in typical Debra fashion, I guess I am my mother's daughter, what I picked to mix it with was this. So this is going to be my solid triangles, and this is going to be my color triangles. And yeah, I think that's going to be fantastic. My mama would be proud of that. She loved bright colors. So my mama would be proud of this. This is also on the Europa sock base, and this is a color called You're a Lizard, Larry. So I think that's fabulous. They were such nice ladies. I just really enjoyed getting to know them, both of them, and visiting with them. And they were kind enough to give me some minis to give away on the podcast. So they gave me a set, or a group of 4 minis. They're not really a set, but they let me pick out 4. So I'm going to put these in prizes. And this one is a colorway called Lionheart. I don't know what these other ones are, but this one's called Lionheart, and this was dyed in honor of the guys from Leon Alexander Yarns because their logo is a lion. And then after my class on Saturday with Quaylen, who is a friend of theirs, they were sweet enough to let me have a mini of my own. Isn't that beautiful? So thank you very much, Anna and Whitney. I appreciate you so much. They were super, super sweet ladies, and I can't wait to see them again. And I got one of their buttons also. So they had little buttons there. And some stickers. I got a sticker, I think, too. So anyway, so yeah. So these will be for prizes. This one's mine. So you can't have that one. Okay, so those were my major purchases. After that, I was just kind of looking for maybe some good deals on yarn or something that just really jumped out at me, but not fingering weight. I was studiously trying to avoid buying fingering weight yarn because I am not a fast sock knitter. I am doing better on my socks, and when I do my regular podcast this week, you'll see. But I'm not a fast enough sock knitter to qualify or to justify a bunch of one skein wonders. So I was looking specifically for things that were like DK weight or worsted weight, but I did get a couple of minis for some socks that I want to make. I'm going to try to learn to do afterthought heels. Now these were from Bayou City Yarn Company, which is rebranding itself as Shipwrecked Sheep. So she had a sale on anything that had her old labels on it. So I got 2 of her minis, and this is her Squish sock, which is a 75-25 base. And this one is called Duke, and this one is called Cheddar. So I thought those would make some cute heels and toes and cuffs maybe in a pair of socks. I've got in mind a sock that I want to make that I was looking for a yellow, so I'm hoping this yellow will work for the heels and the toes on that sock. So anyway, so I picked up those at a really good deal. She was very sweet also. I loved visiting with her. So she's the Shipwrecked Sheep now. And I'll link all these people in the comments section below so that if you're interested in anything that you see, you can check them out. Okay. Then I went by, there was a lady there called Froggy Fibers. And I think she is just a local yarn shop. And she had some really good, she had a 50% off table. Because I'm a sucker for that. And I picked up a skein of alpaca. It's 60% alpaca, 20% wool, and 20% nylon. And it is a sock weight yarn, but I think that this will make a beautiful cowl, and it's super soft, super duper soft. And so I think this will make a really pretty cowl. It does have a little bit of a halo, which you can kind of see there, but I think this will make a beautiful cowl. That'll be nice and soft around the face. And then she had some yarn that her daughter had dyed. I believe she said she had spun and dyed this yarn just kind of as a learning project. And so her daughter had called it Dizzy, her company Dizzy Yarns. And she had these, which are around a DK weight, maybe a little thicker than a DK weight. And they were very inexpensively priced. There's no colorway name on these, I don't believe. These are 100% wool. And so I think, excuse me, I think that I'm going to make Jody Brown's new shawl, the Malibu, out of those. I had purchased the pattern, and that was one of the things in my list. There was not much natural wool there, like really rustic natural colors there. There were a couple of places that had, there was a place that had 100% alpaca, but I was afraid that would grow a bunch. So I didn't buy that. Beautiful yarn though, it made beautiful stuff. I was just, because of my inexperience as a knitter, I wasn't sure that that would work well. But it was beautiful yarn, and then the place that had the accident was the other place that I wanted to look, and they didn't get there until I was getting ready to leave, and I had pretty much spent my budget by then. So, but anyway, so I got these 3 to make the Malibu shawl out of. Again, very loud colors. Okay, then I got suckered in by a pin. Company called Lazy Cat Yarns, named in honor of her original lazy cat who has passed away. I saw the pin and I wanted it. But then as I was looking around, I saw some of her beautiful yarn on her terrestrial base. This is a colorway. This is terrestrial as her base, and the colorway is called Time and Space. This is 100% superwash merino wool, and it's worsted weight. This will either be saved back for a worsted weight shawl. Like I want to make the Barlow Road shawl, and I thought I was going to do natural colors, or the fossil shawl. This is 218 yards. I may see if I can order more of this from her after payday and use this for the fossil shawl. We'll see. Or I may make a cowl or a hat out of it. It's really pretty, and that color is amazing. So I'm very tickled about that. Okay. Yes, I got suckered in by Then the last yarn that I purchased was from Coop Dyeworks. I knew that I wanted to buy from Coop Dyeworks. And I also wanted to buy from Kim Marie Knit Knacks, and I was down to my last little bit of cash, and I know my local yarn shop sells Kim Marie, and in fact I have some yarn on hold there that's Kim Marie Knit Knacks. So I thought, okay, go to Chicken Coop. Chicken Coop Dyeworks, and this is on her hen base, and this is a colorway called Texas Tea, like the Beverly Hillbillies. Okay, and the hen base is 100% superwash merino, and it's DK weight. And I'm going to save that back for a shawl also, because those colors in there are fabulous. So I'm going to save that back for a shawl, like a 2-color shawl, or yeah, something, 2 or 3 colors, DK weight shawl. I've got a couple of DK weight shawls in my library, but I just think the color, there's so many different ways you could go with that, because there's a million different colors in there. It's just beautiful. So anyway, that's Chicken Coop Dyeworks, and I love her stuff because it's all based on farm names. Okay, now I took a class from Quaylen Stark on crocheting cables, and bless him, he's the most patient teacher, because as a lefty crocheter, my cables cross the opposite direction is what they're written for in the pattern. So we had to work that out, but we finally did. And as a part of the class, I got one of his buttons. He does designs for Red Heart, and he also teaches. He's going to be teaching at Dallas Fort Worth Fiber Festival, and he teaches classes at the Stitches Midwest, or excuse me, at all the Stitches events, not just Stitches Midwest. And he gave me this beautiful Celtic Cross Progress Keeper, because we were learning to do Celtic knotwork. And the pattern, I got the pattern when I paid my fee for the class. And then I also got this skein of, this is worsted weight yarn, also from Moon Tower Dyeworks. This is a colorway called Try Me. Okay, it's beautiful gold, rich gold color. And he was a very patient teacher, and I was looking at the class list for Dallas Fort Worth Fiber Festival. I got to wait till payday before I sign up for anything, but he's teaching a class on crocheting cables and also on how to design cables for crochet and knitting. So I'm going to look at taking one of those, at least one of those classes, maybe both of them, but that's got to wait till payday. Now, so that's all the yarn that I got. There were some other things there that I did pick up. Of course, I had to get a button, one of the East Texas Fiber Festival buttons from the information table. And they are actually moving next year to Canton, Texas, which is actually only about 5 minutes further away from me. But the next place that I knew, well, I picked up some tools. I picked up, there was a booth there that was selling needles, and I picked up a size 1 hat needle for fingering weight hats. And then I picked up another pair of size 1 sock needles, because I've decided that 1s are the biggest I need to knit on for my socks. And then I got suckered in by, they had a little set of stitch markers that were moons and suns and all that stuff, and little peace signs and all that. So I picked those up just because I got suckered in by those when they were checking out, kind of like the candy at the checkout. We've talked about that before. My friend from my virtual knitting group, Agatha, drove over to meet me. She lives in Shreveport, so she wasn't that far away, and she drove over to meet me, and she had some wooden needles that she didn't really want, and they're size 0s, and I want to try to knit socks on 0s too. So she was kind enough to give me these two pairs of needles. They're 32 inch. They're not quite long enough to do magic loop, although I might try. We'll see. But I could knit them in tandem if I wanted to, since there's 2. I could do magic loop with 1, not 2 at a time, but these would probably work for magic loop for 1 sock. And then knit them in tandem. So anyway, so she was kind enough to bring me those. It was good to visit with her and her son Dylan. He's a cutie pie. And I got to meet her mom Jackie, and I appreciated them driving over. I didn't get to stay long and visit with them, but I was glad to get to give her a hug and stuff. I hated to hug and run, but kind of worked out that way, unfortunately. And then, last but not least, I knew there was one bag maker, because you know you always need more project bags. I knew that I wanted to go to By the Bay Yarn Co., which this is her little button, By the Bay Yarn Co., and she makes project bags, and she makes canvas project bags. And some people have referred to them as the poor person's French field bags, but I don't agree with that. They are very nice quality. They are not poor person bags by any means. They are excellent quality. I got one of her giant size project bags. It is a drawstring project bag made out of canvas, and it's got a wrist strap on it where you can carry it, and then it has 2 pockets on the inside. So and she is very well priced. I mean, very good value for money if you want like a canvas bag. So I picked this up for myself. It has a boxed bottom on it also, which is nice. And this is definitely big enough to put a sweater in. Okay, so yes, so by the Bay Yarn Co. And then she had also ordered some fabric with the logo of the Fiber Festival on it, and made some bags in honor of the festival. And these are lined bags, but they also come with a pocket. These are more of her medium-sized bags, so you can see the difference there in the medium-sized bag and the giant bag. Okay, but I wanted a bag in commemoration of the festival, so I picked this one up too, and it's a nice drawstring bag. So those are the things that I purchased. I also, in my classes, like I said, I got the skein of yarn, and then and I'm using my Women of Science tote that Miss Mary made for me, that I have to share with Pumpkin for her oat delivery system. Okay. Oh, and Chicken Coop Dyeworks also gave me a beautiful lavender sachet, and she sends this in all of her orders if you order yarn from her. And then when I took Logan's class, he gave us, the cool thing about it was you got to put samples together, and then you could tape your samples in your class notes. And he also gave us a color wheel, which had some really, it's really neat the way you can use it, because it's got sections for analogous colors. Well, let me just take it out. What am I doing here? I need to keep it in there. I don't think it'll be all right. It had, the way it's made, you can turn it, and it's got complementary, triadic, monochromatic, and then analogous, and then it shows you what those different things are. So what he had us do was he had tons and tons of minis on the table from many of the dyers that were at the festival. Donated a rainbow set, and it was interesting to see how everybody interpreted the rainbow of color. And we got to put them together, and we cut little samples off of each of these to tape in our notebooks, but then we got to wind off enough to make swatches to see how the colors work together. So that was really cool. He did an excellent job teaching the class. And then Quaylin, as I mentioned on Saturday, taught the class on how to do the cabling on this scarf. That's Quaylin there in his picture. And then this is the Melchior scarf pattern. Okay, and he has a podcast also. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's Quaylin, so I'm guessing it's Quoe. I don't know, podcast. I'll link that down below. And he has a lot of really good tutorials, which I'm going to have to use. I tried, but I know he was extremely patient with me. I will tell you that for sure. So that's pretty much my experience in terms of the marketplace. Oh, I picked up a leaf too, which I thought was pretty. That was pretty. Anyway, so that was my experience. I had a great time at the festival. I didn't know what to expect exactly because I've never ever been to a fiber festival before. So I was pretty I didn't have a lot of expectation. I just wanted to go and visit with people, and visit with some people that I had met, and then some people that I had only met over the internet. And so it was a neat experience to get to go to that and experience that firsthand. And definitely I'm going to plan on going back next year. They're moving to Canton, Texas, which is where, if you're from this area, there's a huge flea market. I think it's called the First Weekend or the First Monday or something. I don't know. There's a big flea market in Canton once a month, and I think they're moving to that location actually. It's going to be a week end later, a week later next year. It's going to be the 15th and the 16th, I believe. And it's definitely a nice size for your first experience. It's not big enough to be super overwhelming, but there was a lot of good vendors there, and it's growing every year. They had some cool classes. There were some weaving classes and spinning classes, and just a lot of cool different offerings that were there. You know, the building, because the kind of building it is, it was cold in there, just because you can't really do climate control on one of those pavilions very easily. So it was a little bit chilly. I mean, if you were moving and up and moving around, it was okay. But if you were sitting still, you knew it was cold outside. Of course, it's a fiber festival, so we should have no excuses for being cold, because we ought to have plenty of stuff to keep us warm, right? The other thing was the lighting was not so hot. Again, it's a big sort of, it's an old barn that they've refurbished. That area is called the cannery, and there used to be a canning facility for like canning vegetables and stuff down there. And I think it's one of the warehouse buildings, and they've redone it, and it looks great, but the lighting is not set up for something like this. So a lot of the vendors who knew had brought light boxes to set their stuff, where you could put the stuff under the light boxes. A lot of them had went out. You could tell they had gone out and bought clip-on lights and stuff to make sure that people could see. But I think if they move, the facility will be better. They did have a nice stage where the classes were held. You know, it was a nice time. The only thing that I wish had been different, there was nowhere to sit and knit and visit, and that was a little disappointing, because I had brought, I drove 5 hours. I had brought knitting. There were no concessions, drinks, or any of that kind of stuff. It would be nice, and I have no say in any of this whatsoever, but I know that some people who had talked to people in charge had mentioned this also. It would be nice to have sort of a fellowshipping area. I mean, they had planned an afternoon after all the classes were over to have a sit and knit, but it was going to be on the stage area, and the people had set their looms up and their wheels, and that kind of took up, a lot of the footprint. And so if you wanted to just sit and knit, there was really nowhere to sit and visit with people. I sat outside on a park bench and talked to several people that walked by and just visited with me. I met a lady who had a shirt on about dogs, and I stopped and talked to her for a minute. I had made some little giveaway cards to kind of promote my podcast. I'm terrible at self-promotion, but I had made these little cards, and then I had tied little pencils to them, because I thought that, well, what can we always use is more pencils. That's my little logo that my friend Sandy from Pink Cow Path Tags did for me. And then I'd taken Treehouse Knits tip to make one of these and put the QR code, so you can scan that QR code and it takes you right to my YouTube channel. And I gave most of the ones I had made up away. I'm terrible at self-promotion, so I kind of felt weird doing it, but hopefully, people will see past my awkwardness. But that was really my only issue with the event, was I just wish that there had been a place to sit, because if you were taking classes and maybe you had a break in between, it would have been handy to have somewhere to sit down and maybe get a bottle of water, or just sit and visit with people, instead of just coming through. It seemed like it was more set up for people who were more local, to just come in and shop and leave, or come in and do their classes and leave. And some of us drove. I mean, I spoke to several people who drove at least a couple hours to get there, and I had driven 5 hours to get there. So I just wish that it was set up more where there was an area to sit and fellowship. But other than that, I thought it was a great festival. It seems to be growing every year. I hope the vendors did well. I mean, I know on Saturday before I left, it was very busy. There were a lot of people there. So I'm hoping that all the vendors did well and will want to come back and continue to grow the festival. And I'll definitely plan on going again next year. I mean, it's close, and I know that people that I like will be there, and so I'll be more prepared next year with a bigger budget. Because I was like, I saw other things that I wanted, but you have to kind of you do. I was pretty good. I kind of strayed off a little bit, but what I did was I took cash, which I think some people appreciate that, just because it's easy. And and sometimes the signal in there was not so hot. And there were some people that just took cash. They didn't have a Square to do credit card purchases. So I took cash, and once my cash was gone that I had put in my spending pocket, I knew I was done. Almost. I did use my debit card for a couple of little purchases, but so I could keep a little bit of cash. I didn't want to go down the road back home without at least a little bit of cash in my pocket, in case you have trouble. But anyway, so yeah, I thought it was great. I look forward to going next year. I was so pleased to get to meet all of these really great people, some of whom I've seen online, some of who I watched their podcast, and I made some new friends too, and revisited some old friends. I hated that my friend from the yarn shop here in Russellville did not get to go, and I also hated that I did not get to meet Yolanda from the Happy Knits podcast. I suspect that I just didn't get to cross paths with her, but I did get to meet Agatha, and I did get to meet Anna and Whitney, and then Johanna, and I got to see Logan and Jose again, and Carolyn from the Chicken Coop Dyeworks. So I was pleased about that because I've used their yarns before and I know that I love them. So anyway, so that was my experience, my very first trip to a fiber festival. It will definitely not be my last. And yeah, always proud to support my friends that are makers. So I'm going to record a regular episode later this week, but I wanted to do this as a separate one because I know that not everybody appreciates acquisitions. So I wanted to do this as a separate one. But anyway, so if you ever get a chance to check out any of the makers that I mentioned, they're great people. They've all got internet presences. I'll link all that information in the information box down below. And go to a fiber festival, support the makers, take some classes, learn new stuff, and make some new friends. I'm not the easiest person at making friends. I'm kind of awkward, and I'm always assume nobody wants to talk to me. but I'm glad that I went. I'm glad that everybody was so kind and sweet, and I enjoyed myself very much, and I will definitely go back. So until I talk to y'all again, Willie has conked out over here. He's given up. So until I talk to y'all again, be good to each other and take care of each other. Peace out, y'all. Bye.